Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 22 My Team career mode. This is episode number 64 today for the Italian Grand Prix in Season 4. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one around Spa-Francorchamps, because well, we've had a bit of a torrid time this season. You know, we've had the drama with our old teammate Carlos Sainz, and I thought we would have an injection of positivity and momentum by bringing back the reigning 5-time world champion Sebastian Vettel back to our team alongside us in the garage. But, of course, if you did catch last episode, you'll know that ended in absolute pain and misery with the third engine failure in a row. Austria to Silverstone to Spa, the engine has gone pop 3 different times, and this time it was a different component. It was the energy store, so we can't even blame the reliability of the MGK, which thwarted us at Austria and Silverstone. So it was an entirely different component, and that component wasn't even that worn the entire time. So just horrid luck, and we are now very much on the back foot. A lot of points lost to Lando Norris, Alexander Albon. We were in lower than Pierre Gasly, who wasn't even remotely in the title fight, but now he's ahead of us in the championship. So if we're still, you know, wanting to be in the title fight, we've got to now include Gasly in that, because he's ahead of us on points. So yeah, very frustrating times, and I'm very nervous because I've seen people say that sometimes later in the season, later in seasons on this game, they've also endured multiple engine failures in a row. And where does it stop? I swear to God, if we're about to get a 4th one in a row, we may as well just call the season quits at this point, because we need an answer. We need to bounce back here, and in theory we should have the car to do it. We do have 2 new upgrades on the car for aerodynamics on the front and rear downforce, which in turn is going to mean we can run lower wings around Monza and still keep the same sort of stability whilst also getting that straight line speed. Of course, our engine in terms of pure power is maxed out. We still have a fuel upgrade to make, but you're seeing right here, I'm kind of debating what upgrade to go for. We don't quite have enough R&D points to purchase an air upgrade, and we could get a fuel one, but that will just delay any further air upgrades. So I'm going to save my 2,000 points for now, go collect some more over the race weekend, and hopefully get onto those last ultimate air upgrades on the front and rear downforce, and then we'll look at the fuel, because the fuel's not really an issue, and I'm happy that the engine power, at least the pure speed of it, is maxed out. But of course we do have to take a penalty for the engine store. That will be 10 places, and if it actually applies properly, that, you know, if we get pole position, we'll be down 10 places from there. So that's got to be the aim, to try and minimize the damage basically that this penalty will give us around here. You know, thankfully Monza very easy to overtake, especially on the game. Slipstreaming so powerful around here, so we will be able to come back from it, but the competition will be stiff to try and get that pole position, because Repsol Haas are still the best team on this grid, and we've got some improvements for some other teams, Mercedes being the biggest one of them all. They're actually close up to McLaren, so that might help us in the championship fight. The fact that Mercedes now might be as quick as McLaren, that could take points off Lando Norris, and of course we're better than Red Bull already, and we've seen Red Bull really haven't been too consistent at extracting that speed out of their car. So those coupled together, there is hope still, but we still need to also just hope that there's not actually another engine failure. If we get one more engine failure in this season and Lando or Albon are in the top 3, it's game over, I feel. So we do need to, that's going to be in the back of my mind the whole time, especially going into this episode. And it doesn't help that as soon as we enter Q1, we have a lubrication fault that stops me going out straight away. There's just not a good vibe going on right now, okay? I put a lot of trust into Audi with this partnership. It's 2 years strong now by the end of this season, but there's been a lot of things happening here that have made me very frustrated, and I've bitten my lip because, you know, at the same time, we've also had some great moments with Audi. You know, we were able to secure our first Constructors' Championship with them last season, Vettel with the Drivers' Championship, but there are a lot of things chipping away at the trust we have of them delivering us a car that can actually work every single race. But when the car does work, it is pretty damn quick now, obviously being the second best team just after Haas and Vettel, showing we have good pace around here. Nearly 4.5 tenths ahead of anyone. Quickest of all in Q1. We're down in P14 there. Confirmation of the 10th place penalty that we will get by the end of the day. But we go on to the second part of qualifying. But looks like Mercedes are looking a bit quicker there. I think I saw Russell up there splitting the two Red Bull cars. And I'm sure Haas will eventually show their hand properly, because they were mighty around Spa. The way Drogovic was able to re-overtake Lando Norris, having lost the lead in that early lap, and went on to win the race without me even seeing it, because the worry is when you DNF and the simulation, comes in for the rest of the Grand Prix, that the game can sometimes throw out some wacky results and not really reflect the R&D chart. But Drogovic winning his first ever race in Formula 1, really showing that Haas are legitimately here, and they are the best team on this grid, and they need to be feared by all of us. They're going to be a frustrating spanner in the works for our team, Red Bull and McLaren. Speaking of both, both McLarens and both Red Bulls making in, both Audi Sport Works cars making in as well, showing that despite the lack of aero and chassis development maybe on that team, the engine power of the Audi engine working well for all four of us, because all four of us Audi powered cars are through into the top 10 shootout. Mercedes will be a bit frustrated they did not make it through, but that might open the door for a different tyre strategy. But speaking of, here into the top 10 shootout on the one and only flying lap, of course, because these days we only have one set of soft tyres per session. So let's see what we can do. No purple set, but I'm pretty confident it's been a tidy lap, and across the line there was a flash of purple on the bottom left, and it is going to be pole position for the Italian Grand Prix on the Saturday. But of course, we have the 10th place penalty for that engine failure. So we've done the maximum we can, though. We've limited the damage as best we can, but it means that Robert Schwartzman will be elevated to pole in the Repsol Haas. Having seen his teammate win the last race, he's down in P8, and he's done a stellar job to be on the front row to inherit that pole position. So fair play to him. Very, very good, solid result. The Red Bulls, though, look decently quick there. Lando Norris also up there ahead of our teammate Vettel, so that's a bit unfortunate. I would have rather one of them to be a bit further down, so we've got some work to do to try and catch up to both of them, but hopefully Sebastian can help me out by trying to get in the mixer in the early laps versus Lando and Albon. But it's going to be, full blaze and, prayers basically the entire time in this cockpit as we go to Sunday, that we just don't get well, not an engine failure even, just a message from Mark. I don't want to hear that man the entire Grand Prix about any sort of niggle with the car, because then I will lose all composure in the cockpit. So let's see, let's find out. Let's go to Sunday's grid for the Italian Grand Prix.
Welcome back to one of only two countries that has held a race every year since the very first Formula One World Championship in 1950. It is, of course, Italy, one of the great racing nations, and it's time to get underway for the Italian Grand Prix. We're 12 miles northeast of Milan for today's Grand Prix at a MONZA circuit where we can expect top speeds of around 215 miles per hour. 11 corners on this 3.6 mile track, with 7 of those coming in the form of chicanes. And with a good slipstream and DRS open, there should be plenty of opportunity for some passing here today. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Robert Schwartzman lines up on pole position, just edging out Alex Albon, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Tsunoda, Norris, Sebastian Vettel and Bottas, Drogovic, Sainz, Gasly and George Russell, the owner-driver, Leclerc, Fernando Alonso and Verstappen, Mick Schumacher, Perez, Kevin Magnussen and Esteban Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Liam Lawson, Stroll and Théo Pourchaire. And now it's time to head down to the track. Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix. We should talk about Williams. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
So unlike Spa, the penalty has been applied, so I'm pretty sure that is just a glitch around the Belgium Grand Prix. For whatever reason, penalties don't apply properly. So we are down in P11. Russell elevated to P10. Both Mercedes cars opting to start on the soft compound of tyres. So that's going to be interesting because, you know, with upgrades here, they're probably disappointed of how Saturday went, but they could be pretty damn quick at the start of this race on a softer compound compared to most of them. I think that everyone ahead of Russell in the top 10, all of them have chosen the medium compound tyre. Strategies could vary because some may go to the hard tyres after the mediums. I'm thinking, because the Mercs think they can go soft to medium, I reckon if we long it out, it could be a better play to try and extend the medium tyre stint to get onto the soft tyre at the end of the race. And that may give us some crucial pace to catch up those last few positions to recover this penalty. It depends on how this first stint goes, really, because we could do some amazing work on these mediums, of course. And like I said, Monza, it is always an overtaking fest, so I'm pretty confident about that. But we're going to have to see. Stiff competition. The Haas cars are going to be very quick. Vettel seems in very good form in our car on his return from last episode. And you've got to think that McLaren and Red Bull are just going to be there as they have been all season long. Unfortunately, I do overshoot the grid slot, so we're a bit pushed back a little bit from our grid slot at the 5 red lights. So I have to get a really good exit here in what could be a very crucial Grand Prix for our entire season and championship contention as we go to 5 red lights. So the Italian Grand Prix, lights out, and away we go. Russell with a good exit. Sainz really slow. A few cars bunching up. Russell trying to go down the inside. Leclerc on my inside. Going to mean we're boxed in at turn 1, inches away from maybe making some race-ending contact with Carlos Sainz in his new Audi Sport Works car there, as we are flirting very, very close on the left-hand side, having Leclerc box us in, but we made it through unscathed up into P9. Drogovic, slow start for him, down to P10. And you can see Russell's making real good use of those soft tyres as we try and get one more position on this opening lap, getting ahead of Valtteri Bottas. So we've already got past our kind of sister Audi team up into P8. Both Mercedes cars have made actually good use of that soft tyre, sorry, not just Russell. So both of them up to P6 and 7. So can't imagine they're going to go chasing after Lando Norris there. It's a terrible getaway for the likes of Gasly, who's down to P12 now. And Schwartzman has unfortunately lost the lead of the Grand Prix, just like was at Spa. The Haas on pole is down to P2, but like Drogovic, could Schwartzman re-overtake his rival to get back into P1? Sebastian Vettel, who did make a good start up into P3, is now overtaken by Tsunoda, and Albon remains firm for P1. So Red Bull are showing a bit of pace here, but Schwartzman gets through, just like at Spa, down that Camel straight, down the pit straight here at Monza. Schwartzman going for the move to retake P1. He had the inside line, but Albon will get the elbows out, you imagine. Side by side through the first 2 turns, and Vettel and Tsunoda as well are at it, and Vettel gets back up into P3, and Schwartzman does lead this Grand Prix. So Haas are showing that even if they make a few errors here and there as a team not experienced with maybe being on pole position all the time, they've got that pure speed to get the job done. Meanwhile, Leclerc v Lando means that Russell is boxed in a bit of a domino effect, allows us to swoop through on the inside with a switchback left to right, make a bit of contact. I felt with Russell, so we just checked that, but I think we're fine. So we're up into P7 and now can have a go at Lando Norris, one of our championship rivals. So already we've closed up to one of them, and it's only lap 2, so very good progress and showing the pure pace of this car with a maxed out engine on the power side of things. And you can see a bit of twitching going on the rear end of the McLaren as we go through Ascari, now down towards Parabolica. He goes defensive, we go to the outside, no ERS used through here. We're just going to make the move round the outside. Such is the downforce levels of this car and the power. And we took inspiration, I did, from Red Bull in real life. I've actually ran a bit higher wings than I maybe would have done in the past, knowing that the engine power is so good. So it means we've got that grip in the corners just to push away mid-apex, very much like Verstappen was able to do IRL at the Italian Grand Prix this year. And we see behind us Russell overtaking Lando to get up into P7. So both McLarens really struggling for pace around Monza, because Gasly's only P11. He's only got one more place than he was down to on lap 1 in a sandwich of the Audi Works team. So that will be a bit concerning for McLaren. I wonder if both of them maybe have their own separate engine wear issues, because this is very surprising. We haven't seen McLaren this slow all season. And, you know, Red Bull, they're right up there, P2 and P4, of course. And Bottas gets back ahead of Gasly, as we now see some fighting going on with Fernando Alonso, Verstappen and Sergio Perez, and Drogovic making good progress to try and recover from what was a very difficult start. I think, you know, he very much got boxed in the kind of concertina effect traffic in the first few turns, and now he's on the back of Lando Norris, so this could be even worse for the McLaren team and for one of my championship rivals, as we now look to overtake Leclerc. At the same time, Drogovic may be looking to overtake the McLaren. So here we go on Leclerc. Very, very close to maybe spinning it on the exit there. We got so close to his rear end, had to step out of it. And I think the dirty air kind of unsettled the car a little bit. But DRS now fast lap of the Grand Prix. Leclerc goes defensive, but we go to the outside late on the brakes to try and get it gone into the apex for the next left-hander. And we're up into P5. Very, very good progress being made here. And next up, it's Yuki Tsunoda. Vettel not keeping up with Albon too much there, which is a bit concerning. Albon in the DRS of Schwartzman, so maybe once we can hopefully get past Tsunoda and Vettel, that may be then a harder challenge to close up to Albon and Schwartzman, because they're kind of, you know, Schwartzman's just very, very quick in clean air, and Albon's using that DRS just to pull him along. But to be fair, Vettel's now got back into 1 second of Albon, and we're all kind of now in a bit of a DRS train down to about P6, because Leclerc's got my DRS as well. Drogovic has got past Lando Norris, so he's up into P8. So it is a really dismal day for McLaren. And Tsunoda now, bit of a twitch for himself on the exit of the car. A lot of the AI making a lot of twitches on that exit curb on the left-hander, and so now he's going defensive into Parabolica. We're going to just try and skate this round the outside. Easy does it on the throttle. Up into P4. Tsunoda may come back at us though, so we're having to deploy a bit of ERS across the line. DRS we do have, but Tsunoda is there as well, and you can see how quick that Red Bull actually is in a straight line. So fair play, they've done some work on the setup maybe, because Tsunoda pulls through side by side, and we have to do some defensive work to make sure we book in this P4, so we can actually now relax and chase after Sebastian Vettel 1.3 ahead. Behind us, action going on with Tsunoda now struggling, maybe a bit of tyre wear already on those mediums, which would be odd because the Mercs are looking even better on the soft compounder tyre. So maybe just Tsunoda himself just struggling. Quite a few drivers, to be fair, struggling, as we already mentioned with the McLarens. And Leclerc looking mighty confident. This move round the outside, bit skatish on the rear end there. You saw he had to try and feather the throttle to plant the power, and Tsunoda comes back at him. Russell's in the mixer as well. It might be 3 wide as we go down to turn 1. The 2 Mercs on the left-hand side. Russell's got back ahead of Leclerc and is now trying to make a double pass as he tries to get Tsunoda into turns 2. Tsunoda defending with all his might, because he's kind of almost like a bottleneck for the 2 Mercs, because this will be frustrating them to no end, because they need to make the most use of these soft tyres whilst the rest of us are on mediums. And there's been so much infighting there that Drogovic has now joined that fight. So it's going to be a 4-way battle between the Haas, 2 Mercs and the Red Bull car, as we now catch up to Sebastian Vettel in clean air. We've set a purple first sector. We've still got the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so we are the fastest man on this circuit. The pole position wasn't lying, and of course I'm driving with so much determination and anger, to be honest, after the 3 engine failures, that I'm not having this. I want to go for this win, but I've also got to remember, I've got to hope. How many times have we said, let's go for the win, and then the engine goes pop? So we need to watch out for that. And Sebastian Vettel gives us a little bit of a hard time overtaking, but eventually we do get through into P3 with no contact made, and that's what real respect looks like between 2 teammates, Carlos Sainz. And now we watch on behind and that Merc v Red Bull fight's now turned into the Haas fight, of course, as Drogovic tries to get in the mixer, and the two Silver Arrows have not helped themselves out. They've been infighting too much. Now Tsunoda's actually broken away from that pack, and Drogovic has a free opportunity to attack both of them, and they've all been fighting so much that even Norris has caught up to them, and we've seen the McLaren just seem so slow for some reason this race weekend. But look at Drogovic go. He's got the toe, and he's 3 wide as the two Mercs are still pretty much squabbling with each other, and they're too focused on each other, and that's going to open the door up for the Brazilian. He has to hop the curb and make a bit of contact, and that got a bit sketchy. Thankfully for all of them, I don't think there's any damage there, but the two Mercs, you can tell they're focused on each other way too much, and they continue to be, as we've got Leclerc down the inside. Russell gets back through on the outside though, and this is turning a little bit too frosty maybe for Toto Wolff on the pit wall, and now this is the chance for Felipe Drogovic to get through into P7, because now that first Merc is not giving the second Merc a toe near enough, strong enough maybe to help out, so couldn't get it done in Parabolica, but this should be a slam dunk, I would say, into turn 1, as he's already got past him as they cross the line pretty much, and he's now pulled out ahead and looking to defend himself as now the McLaren gets in the mix. So Felipe Drogovic up into P7. Lando Norris though, big dive bomb there. He's actually gone for not only the Mercedes car, but he's got the Haas. Fair play. Desperation maybe from Lando, knowing that he's giving away a lot of championship points right now in this race, so desperate times call for desperate measures. And speaking about championship points, well, you got his two rivals here now, myself and Albon, close together on lap 8. This has been a stunning first lap around Monza, and we could well be ahead of both of our championship rivals by the time we end lap 9. Another fast lap of the Grand Prix. Albon squeezing us. We're going to squeeze him back for good measure. It's going to be side by side into turn 1. We'll have the inside line. Albon nearly makes contact with us as he skips the curb, and this is intense. Albon knows he needs to try and hold us up. He probably knows the pace we've got, and as soon as we finish this move off, he knows that's game over, and I'm looking at only one more man in this race, and that's the Repsol Haas for the win of the Italian GP. We're going to go deep into that corner on purpose to squeeze him out, and we are up into P2, but Albon is going to stay with us under our DRS, at least for this lap, so we need to try and shake him off, hopefully. Vettel's in the background there, 1.3, now 1 second behind us. If we can maybe try and stall Albon enough, potentially we could help our teammate out, and in turn ourselves, by getting Vettel ahead of Albon. We go defensive into Ascari, and Albon actually sails around the outside of me. I didn't expect him to actually go that late on the brakes, to be fair, so he did surprise me there a little bit. But now towards Parabolica, we'll get back under his rear wing, pull out to the left-hand side. It's been a deja vu kind of copycat move for a lot of these overtakes around the outside of this final corner at Monza, and then we'll push away. Albon in the dirty air gets really flummoxed, and now Vettel has a very good chance of overtaking him. He's in the slipstream. We're weaving about to try and break Albon's toe. Vettel will go to the outside of turn 1. We break a bit early, and Vettel is now around our outside there. So all of a sudden, we've actually maybe broken a bit too early there to help out Vettel, and he's now got ahead of both of us into P2. But now we'll just get the toe back on him. We've already got Albon, and we'll slip on by on Sebastian Vettel, and that will mean we are now 2 and 3, and he can, well, not only go for a podium, Vettel can, he can also be a rear gunner and block off Albon and Lando if he was to come up later on in the race. And I can just concentrate now on trying to bridge a 6-second gap to the Repsol Haas. And whilst we chip away at Schwartzman, Vettel and Albon will continue to swap positions left and right basically for the next couple of laps. This will be Albon on the inside, Vettel finding them back in the first 2 turns, and eventually Vettel will get back ahead on lap 13. He's now got both Red Bulls for company, so Tsunoda now wanting to maybe get into this fight, so this will be a bit interesting. Albon on the outside into Ascari. Vettel breaks early and gets caught out by Tsunoda as well. It's a fantastic sequence of corners for the Red Bull team. Vettel down to P5 now from P3 in a flash, and he's going to try and re-overtake Tsunoda on the outside. Tsunoda, though, looks like he's going to be very harsh with his defense and really give him a good squeeze. Vettel, really steps out on the rear end, and now might invite Drogovic in as Tsunoda pits. Tsunoda pits off those mediums for a set of hard tyres, I imagine. But the damage has been done. Drogovic has caught up, and the Haas is now ahead of Vettel in P3. Vettel trying his darndest to get back ahead with a real late break zone, but Drogovic is ahead, so he's basically lost 3 positions there in the span of like 2-3 corners and a straight towards Parabolica, so that's a bit frustrating, but I'm sure Vettel will be determined to come back in the second stint, as everyone now have made their pit stops, bar me. We continue on, because you can see all of them, apart from the Mercs, are on hard tyres. The Mercs have gone to mediums off the soft compound tyre, so like I alluded to, I'm going to stretch the medium tyre stint and do the reverse strategy the Mercedes cars did, because even though all my soft tyres are used soft tyres, because we've stretched this to lap 17 now, so there's only going to be 10 laps to go, as now we see Piastri out of the Grand Prix, so even better reason to pit now in case there's a safety car because of that retirement. Don't think there will be though, but yeah, because we've only got 10 laps, even though we're going to be on a set of used tyres, the softs, there's going to be so much pace difference there that I can do a bit of tyre management, don't need to go flat out on the softs, and we should be able to still catch up to Schwartzman. When he pit in, I had about a 3-second gap to Schwartzman, so, you know, in about 6 laps or whatever it was, I bridged 3 seconds to him. We now need a further 3 seconds to catch up to him fully to be able to try and go for the move for P1. So there he goes. He's been doing so fantastic this entire race and trying to emulate his teammate who won the last race, but unfortunately for him, I am determined to try and ruin that back-to-back victory for Repsol Haas. And I'm determined to get a win to try and get as many points as I can over Albon, who's right now in P3, and Lando, who I believe's down in about P8, so this could be huge for us. And on lap 20 then, 3 laps later, I've not even been pushing that hard, like I said, just trying to protect the tyres a little bit, but such is the pace difference of being on a compound two steps softer than the hards, we've caught up to the Haas, and now this is our opportunity to go for the move for the race lead and then control the race from there and make sure our softs don't go off a cliff. Schwartzman goes very defensive to the inside, as he would. We go to the outside, taking it easy though, tried to go for a bit of a cheeky switch, but it just wasn't actually going to work, as Schwartzman was always going to park it at that apex, but that's fine. We can go through now the next curve into the end of Sector 1, whereas Schwartzman's going to go, he's going to stick to the inside to defend this, so we have to go to the outside, and again, he brakes real late, hops over the curb, and really frustrates us, because he almost has to take us off circuit there in his defense. So of course, he's desperate. He's probably seen his teammate win last episode, and he's desperate to try and emulate him and show that he's also worthwhile in this team. But we just have that overwhelming pace. You can just tell eventually we'll get this done, and I think it'll be here with DRS and ERS deployed, going through in a straight line and then just getting to that apex first through Ascari, and then through the middle of this section you can just see that pace difference as the proximity arrow falls away from us and we're up into P1. So now the job for us is to control the tyre wear and hope for 6 laps our engine can hold out. Meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel, like I said, will be making moves, and he's back up ahead of Tsunoda into P5, and next up is going to be George Russell. He's chasing after, and even though the Mercs are on medium tyres, those mediums will wear out a little bit towards the end of the race, so maybe Vettel could actually catch Russell and get up into P4. Meanwhile, ironically, our old teammate Carlos Sainz in the Audi Sport Works team is trying to do us a favour here by overtaking the McLaren of Lando Norris. Gasly's had a mare. He's down in P18, and Lando is just trying to survive for P10. Meanwhile, Drogovic overtakes Leclerc as they're side by side in turns 1 and 2 for P7 and 8. But behind, look at the ladder, Sainz has overtaken Lando. So Sainz into P9, and that means one of our rivals is only getting 1 measly point in this championship. So it's funny how that works. You know, the teammate that we really didn't like and wanted to get rid of and swap out has now inadvertently helped us out a bit. And we're looking comfy on lap 24, 2.67 ahead of Schwartzman, and now Albon is out of the Italian Grand Prix. That's massive for us. His engine goes up in smokes. The Red Bull's out. So one of our championship rivals is going to score 0. The other one will actually get elevated to P9 and will score 2 points though. But we're scoring a big old 26 for the fast lap of the Grand Prix and the race win. That is massive. We were 34 points off Albon, who was leading the championship after the last race, and now we're going to gain a whole 26 on him. This is huge. Huge for us. And now Vettel, showing his pace, showing his class, overtakes Russell onto the last lap of the Grand Prix. Russell's going to come back at him. This is for a podium, a back-to-back podium for Sebastian Vettel, back in our team. Russell comes back at him though, and that Merc is showing a little bit of pace there, but the mediums are going off, and Vettel's just showing some determination to get that last position and make it a double podium for our team to also help us out in the Constructors' Championship. Meanwhile, behind, Drogovic still stays ahead of Leclerc and will come home in P6. Unfortunate race for him today. Just got caught up in too much traffic, you would say, at the start of the race to match his teammate Schwartzman, but the pace is clearly there for the Repsol Haas. And Sainz, our old teammate, is going to stay ahead of Lando Norris and take more points off him, and he's only going to finish up with 2 points, Lando is. But Vettel, he's down to P4. Can he do it again, though, on the last lap into the last sector of this Italian Grand Prix? Sebastian Vettel fakes to the left, goes to the right, round the outside at Ascari, gets P3, gets the podium, and we come through for the win. That is quite literally the best it could have gone. That's the ideal scenario, and we're now fully back into this. And we may as well not have the 3 failures. That is awesome. That is so class.
Here we are then, a thoroughly deserved win in Italy after another excellent Grand Prix. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, this was won through an abundance of speed and skillful overtakes. Inside, outside, cutting underneath, we saw it all today. And it's really nice to see a Grand Prix won in that manner. A race to satisfy the purists today, I think.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
Despite the engine failure last race, this really is the dream team. Myself and Sebastian Vettel, double podium. Really just feels like last season almost, you know, with both of us going for the podiums. Although this time round, I'm the one who's able to get to the top step, as I definitely look a bit more comfier in this Season 4 car compared to Season 3, whereas it was the other way around. But Schwartzman's done himself proud there. P2 in the Repsol Haas, they're going to be the guys that are just battling us for the podiums. Unless Red Bull and McLaren bring further upgrades to bring themselves back up into the R&D chart, kind of arms race, I think this will be the pattern, is us versus Haas. And as long as we actually are able to continue this pattern of, you know, actually getting the podiums, not having engine failures, I think we can come back into this. And, you know, we're now 2 points off Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. We are 8 points off Albon in the Drivers' Championship. We've already re-overtaken both McLarens, Gasly and Lando in the Drivers' Championship. So just myself and Albon now to go in terms of that fight. But obviously plenty of races to go, and you just never know. You just never know. And like in the same way Haas and Mercedes have brought upgrades, maybe McLaren and Red Bull bring upgrades in the coming races. Of course, they've got boosted R&D, we have reduced R&D, so they are going to have a better chance of out-upgrading us, so we can't take it for granted of what we've got. And that's why I've been saying this entire time. We need to make the most of this quick car, and those 3 engine failures were the exact opposite. But this is the kind of pace this car has. This is it. That's how good this car is now. Maxed out engine, near enough maxed out aero, and a maxed out chassis apart from the brakes, but for obvious reasons we're not upgrading those. So yeah, this car is supreme when it works, when it can finish a race, and we just got to hope it can do for the rest of the season. But guys, if you have enjoyed this one, redemption after 3 DNFs in a row, smash the like button, let me know what you thought in the comments below. And if you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.